Jewel, Kimmy J, and Yanni. We're going to come to you today just kind of letting you know how we got together as sisters.
Okay, so sisterhood. Let's dive into what we feel sisterhood is and what sisterhood is about. How can we express in our own words what sisterhood is to us? What does sisterhood mean to you?
Okay, so we had this conversation prior to the taping, and what we found out, we were at three different levels of sisterhood. Me, I was one of those people growing up that I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a peculiar child, a little nerdish, didn't really like people. So I had very few friends. Had a lot of family, but very few friends. And, growing up, I never really experienced the life experiences that I have now with the people that I've met along the way. And to me, sisterhood it's not blood, and it's not necessarily water either. It's like a connection. Most of it is divine connections over the course of time, that you nurture, and it just grows and grows and grows. Kimmy, she's actually a product of a relationship which we actually met in a very unique way.
Yes.
Our ex-husbands were best friends, and we just kind of met in happenstance. Really, it was kind of like we were going through it.
Very similar situations, and It was just like when I came to a point when I was still married to him, and I came to a point in the marriage where I needed help. She was there, and it was, I guess the word to use is easy, because she understood exactly where I was coming from, because she had already experienced that with her ex-husband at the time, her husband at the time. Mm-hmm. So, and since then, it just, everything clicked.
Right. And the funny thing about it was, I don't think we even were supposed to meet, because it was like oh, by the way, this is my wife.
You just came along. You were just
like, what? But while they were doing their little thing, you know what men do. They just kind of like, I don't know what they be doing half the time. Honestly, they just.
I think at the time, I almost said his name. I think at the time he saw that, okay, well, he's with his wife, he doing his thing, and they look like they, because at the time, me and mine just, we was trying to work things out. So right. I think he just kind of felt like, well, let me try it. Let me try to fix it. And, my friend got his thing going on. He looked like he doing good. So right. I think that's how it kind of.
Yeah, but it was still kind of on the weird side. Only say that because it's like that particular night they were actually going through something. And she came like a little frustrated and upset. And I was like, okay, first of all, who is this? And, what's going on? Don't be bringing drama over here, pretty much. But after, just kind of getting off to ourselves, and just talking, it was just kind of like, oh, she's pretty cool. And fast forward, maybe about 6 months, maybe?
I don't remember.
I got a phone call in the middle of the night. I missed the phone call, and it was, to me, a distress call. And I felt so bad, because after I woke up, I called back, and they were like, I didn't have any place where to go. And I think that was the night where she was kind of like in a bad place, and ended up, if I can share, she ended up sleeping in a parking lot with her kids. And I was just like, you could come, and she's like, well, I called you and you didn't answer, which made me feel bad. But at the same time, I was like, I can only think about myself. At that point, I had 3 kids. She had 1 at the time, and I was just like, what the things that we do as mothers, or as caregivers for our children, and it's like anything could have happened, and I just didn't want that like on me. And the fact that, she was a good person from what I saw, regardless to, what picture was being painted, I felt a connection. So you ended up staying with me probably
for at least 5 months or so?
5 or 6 months, yeah.
Until I was able to
get back on her feet and stuff like that. So, and this is, when I tell you, I didn't meet her, she wasn't a friend. She was a friend of an ex. It was all complicated. But that was, 7, 8 years ago? Thierry's
10. Yeah, so that was about
like
7 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time.
And every time we connect, it's always something good, but it never connected to where we are like right now. So I ended up moving to Atlanta, and we just was looking forward to just kind of like reconnecting, doing some things together. But I never would have thought that it would just at our dinner table that all of this would just come together. And the missing link to all of this was Yanni over here. Yanni is she's my stylist, my hairstylist, and it's a big backstory to all of that, which we will get to maybe today, maybe on another episode. But it was like one of those situations where people come in your path, and you don't really know why they keep popping up. You know what I mean? And it's like, because when I first met her, I was like, she got an attitude problem. I'm like, I hate it for the people whose hair she do, because she don't talk to them. You go to the salon.
When you're quiet, you get like misjudged when you're a quiet person.
That is true.
Like, cause I'm like Yanni, I'm like reserved and quiet, and I'm that person that would just kind of watch, and then people, tend to think that you're stuck up or you're mean.
I'm not a quiet person. It's just the fact that
the perception was that she.
No, I'm quiet when I'm getting to know you, and that was your first time in the salon.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like,
no, I'm talking. Let's go back. I'm talking about when. Desiree was my stylist, and you were her partner or person who was, in the salon again. I was just like, she don't ever talk to her client. We go as women to vent. Stylists, nail techs, all that. We want to load off because we have stuff that's on us.
We talking about y'all man stuff. We be talking about our women stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm just like, man, I just feel bad for her client because she don't even talk to him. And so Desiree was like, well, no, she's not really like that. You just have to get to know her. It's like, oh, okay. And then she left the salon. And then fast forward, I'm still going to my stylist, and she overbooks. And she said, well, I'm going to have to give you to somebody else to do your hair. Now, I already took my hair out, so I have to get it done. It's like, it's Mother's Day weekend, and I'm like, I need a sew-in. I don't need, there's no simple shampoo or nothing. So I ended up back in her chair. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to see how this goes. But she was a little more talkative this time, but the difference was I had a one-on-one experience, which was totally different from the group setting. And my personality is better one-on-one, but it was like we had similar situations, just like Kimmy. We had similar situations that we were going through that just kind of connected us. And we started talking, and it was just like, I was like, oh, she's not that bad. Like I was like, you know, like people go through things, but first impressions are the things that's lasting ones, and you know, and it sticks. So I didn't know at first what to expect, but over the course of time, it's kind of like, wow. So put these two together, and it was like a burst. Right. It was more than a spark. It was like a fire, and it was like, you know what? This is a missing piece. It's supposed to be a trio, not a duo. So we were able to, you know, kind of connect in a way which is unique for me, unique for her, unique for them, you know. And but what we learned from all of that is that each one of our experiences, even though it's some is dramatic, you know. Some dramatic. We all have
a little bit of dramatic.
It's all like we're able to talk on a level to where, you know, it's real. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, okay, I've experienced that. This is what I did, but we can respect each other enough to know that, you know, it's not cookie cutter. You know, you just got to find your way through everything, and you know, you can take the advice, and like my grandma would say, you can eat the fish and spit out the bones. Whatever applies to you, then that's what you do. But when we were talking about some of the topics, you know, it was just kind of like, wow, there's no podcast, there's no television series long enough that where we can be able to actually touch on everything. But you know, the main things is, who do you go to when you feel like you're alone? You know, who's that person for you? Like, who's that person that says, I'm going to listen to you today because we know you need to vent. Right. Or, oh no, we need an intervention. Or, you know, it's like you have to have some type of a connection to where you're valued enough to where people can kind of listen to you, and that's few and far between. I know me, I'm a little what's the word I'm looking for? I tell some of the people who I've dated in the past that they're not qualified to speak into my life in certain areas, you know, so I leave that to the people who really hold that place, and that's kind of where the sisterhood comes into effect. On the way here, we were just talking about my good friend, Lisa. She's the first person who I met when I came to Jacksonville. I'm originally from Charleston, Missouri, a little small town in farm town, 5,000 people, nothing to offer. I still love you guys, but you know, I had to get away. She came and she was my ultimate cheerleader. Even now, it's like when she sees this podcast, she's like, I knew it. I knew you can do it. I've been, you know, she'll stand for me in anything that I do. But that's just the connection that we had, and it's important because those are that's the watering that I needed. The seeds were planted, but you know, you lose yourself sometimes, you gather it back. You know, you go through things, you feel like it's broken you, but you realize, you know, when you go back to some of that stuff that you've learned, that, you know, it's not that bad. You know, it's not that bad. I can get up from it, you know, I can learn from it, or I can teach somebody else. And I think that's kind of the individual experiences. I mean, we're still going through some of them. I mean, I know I am. 2019 was rough for me, but it's kind of like, what would I've done if I didn't have anybody to talk to? What would I have done if, I didn't find people in my life to distract me, from things that could have potentially, put me into a deep depression or whatever the case may be. I don't know about you guys, but some of the experiences that I've had, it's grown me to this point to where even I was scared to kind of push the button before because I had failed a few times, things, you launch something and it don't really go, like you want it to. It's like a delayed but not denied, but do you really believe that? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's the most positive thing to say, but do you really believe it? And sometimes you need those cheerleaders in your corner, or you need to, just not even focus so much on it, and
and that's what sisterhood is about. It's about having that support team, knowing that, because sometimes, especially I believe as women, and I'm not even going to just say as women, I just think as human beings, we could just get into our heads, and if we don't have anyone to come in and just kind of give that advice and just give us that support, then we can just kind of stray away. You need that. You need someone to kind of be there for you, to let you know that you're not alone in this. You're not the only person that this has happened to. Because I know personally from my experience, and I'm just speaking from experience, like I've gone through that stage where I just feel like, I kind of put myself away from people, isolated myself, and it just brought me to this place where I just felt like, I'm the only one that goes through this. Like I'm the only one that, and it drives you kind of crazy until God kind of spoke to me, and this thing in your inner spirit kind of speaks to you and just says, okay, well, you can't go through this by yourself. You need to go, get some help or go talk to someone. When you do talk to someone, it just, I don't know, it helps. It makes you realize that, okay, I'm not the only one that is experiencing certain things. So
what do you guys think, is our main hindrance from just seeking help from the beginning?
Pride. Embarrassment, pride,
foundation.
I believe I think the biggest thing, my opinion is embarrassment and shame. That's one of the biggest things.
Judgment.
Yeah, judgment, not wanting to be judged.
So overall, it's kind of like you're kind of reflecting your insecurities on other people, because it's like, even in mentorship, any situation that you have, even in the corporate America, it's always levels. You know what I mean? It's people who, who are new, fresh out of orientation.
The rookie.
Yeah, rookies. They don't. And then there's, experience, management. You get to those levels based off of the decisions that you've made. The choices, good or bad, how they shape you. And you got to kind of realize, you don't know everything. No one does.
Right.
But good counsel is always going to be beneficial, because if you're in your box, you need somebody outside the box looking in saying, you know what, you keep going through this because you keep doing the same thing.
I think it plays a part with society and media. I think it just society kind of puts you in this box where it's like, okay, this is the life that you should live and this is how you should be. So when something goes wrong and is not compared to what society kind of plays out that it should be, it kind of makes you feel like, well, dang, people are going to look at me like, I was this before and now I'm down, I'm low, I'm at my low point, and they're going to, think of me as whatever in a negative manner. So I just think it What do you got to say, Yanni?
All those points were valid, and I guess that's more the reason why I decided I'm just gonna be to myself. I surround myself with my family and my spouse at the time.
But then too, that puts you in a bubble, and
It puts me in a bubble.
and that's what society does. It makes you feel like, okay, well, if you're not this way, then you can't really express what real life,
I thought
the real life that's happening.
I was under the impression that's all I needed. That's all I needed. Growing up, oh girl, you don't mess with them neighbors. You don't mess with them kids. You don't play with them.
Right.
And when I didn't listen, when I went outside, then I understood. Bullying and fighting and that's a lot of trauma for a child. So.
Right. And that foundation, it reflects and projects onto your adulthood, to how you deal with situations, especially like with anything that's going to tear down your self-esteem. Is going to be something that if you don't address it or you don't deal with it, it's gonna grow. It's like a tumor. You don't know why things affect you the way they do initially, but once you get that understanding and you're able to kind of deal with it, you're able to better deal with some of your situations. And she brought to a good point where sisterhood is not always, an outside person. It can be a family, and that coins the phrase, blood is thicker than water.
When it comes to family, though,
doesn't
I'm just saying, because you say, but then there's this biasness when it comes to family.
Yeah, that's true. And especially if you were, because like for me, most people, not all, are raised by their mother's side. I was raised by my dad's side of the family. So I barely even know any of my mother's people. Like I never met my grandma. I never, so it kind of all depends on the closeness of them, because of course you're going to have grandma, because that's like the matriarch. Everybody has one of those. And it all depends on, how she's treated is pretty much how you kind of perceive how family is supposed to be. But for me, it was kind of like division. A lot of division. And this might hurt some of my family members, but again, this is my story to tell. And I just feel